Chapter 229, A Few Hundred Beauties for You to Pick. Tuesday afternoon, at the training grounds of the Mystery Branch. Due to the diversity and complexity of the students' combat methods, the Mystery Branch had its own training grounds. For example, if a plant-type superb individual went to the combat training building that was commonly used in schools, they would be at a disadvantage. He would be the one who was being tortured the whole time. This was because the combat training building made of concrete was too unfriendly to plants. The elusive characteristics of plant-type attacks could not be displayed there. It was also because of this that the Mystery Branch had a training ground that could be said to be the entire ecosystem. Of course, this was training. When it came to actual combat in the wild, the students would have to rely on themselves to unleash a portion of their strength. It was also because of this that most of the students of the Mystery Branch were training in this Year 1 field. A small number of students from the Mystery Branch who wanted to hone their survival skills would also go to the combat training building to challenge the students from the Extreme Branch. Of course, most of them were challenges. If they directly went to the first-year combat training class of the Extreme Branch to hone their abilities, they would be giving the students of the Extreme Branch a punching bag. Many students from the Extreme Branch wanted to fight the students from the Mystery Branch with all their might. They were going crazy just from thinking about it. However, the students of the Mystery Branch were more willing to spar with their fellow students for actual combat training. If they really needed to spar with students from the Extreme Branch, they would usually do it privately. After all, those from the Mystery Branch had to be more reserved. They had to keep their abilities a little more mysterious. Even though the abilities of the Mystery Branch had been thoroughly studied by the students of the Extreme Branch through various videos and data. However, the feeling of experiencing it personally and watching the video were completely different. Otherwise, countless otakus would not need a girlfriend at all. They only needed an action movie. Tomorrow, September 15th, the 3-month growth protection period for new students officially ended. At the same time, the Year 1 Longhu list that countless students had been looking forward to would also start. The comprehensive assessment of the freshmen would only begin after the first-year Longhu list was released. It was also because of this that the entire ecological combat training ground was very lively today. There were many people, many students gathered together and discussed their Mystery Branch abilities. Of course, they were also divided into nests. For example, there were Earth Element Superb Individuals, Fire Element Superb Individuals, and Plant-type Superb Individuals. There was another nest of Radiation Influences. However, the morale of the students from the Radiation Influence branch was not good. They just sat together and chatted casually. The Radiation Influence branch of the Mystery Branch was a slow heat system. It was difficult for a sophomore to have powerful combat strength. Usually, one had to be in their 3rd year to have a powerful ability to control the situation. At that time, he would be a hot figure. As for the freshmen, they were just there for show. Naturally, the School of Enlightened Mind was also there. There was only one other student in the School of Enlightened Mind, including the school representative, Rong Yayan, who could use his mind power to achieve low-level instantiation. There was no need to talk about controlling objects like Zutui. However, Zutui's arrival caused the students from the School of Enlightened Mind to immediately surround him. They were extremely excited. They had been in combat training for more than 2 months. Rong Yayan had just achieved low-level instantiation a few days ago. He could condense a mental all like Zutui did in the beginning. He excitedly looked for someone to challenge. However, he was almost beaten up so badly that he could not even find his bearings. It was a crushing defeat. At this moment, Zutui, the only person who could fight, had come, so he immediately became happy. The cheers of the students from the School of Enlightened Mind, who had always been quiet, triggered a chain reaction. Zutui Washer, the silver swordsman, Zutui, was here. The flying sword warrior had come to participate in the combat training class. Zutui was a godlike existence among the students of the Mystery Branch. After the battle with Deng Wei, Zutui rarely appeared in combat training classes. He had become famous after he participated in the actual combat exchange with the India sector. Ever since then, the first-year students of the Mystery Branch looked forward to fighting Zutui. They were looking forward to a real battle with Zutui. They did not seek victory. However, they wanted to test their strength and understand the difference. This kind of mentality was just like how a young child loved to play with a child who was 2 or 3 years older than him. Even if they were bullied, they would still chase after them to play. The conclusion was interesting and challenging. However, ever since he became famous as a flying sword warrior, Zhu Tui had never attended any combat training classes. Many students were very disappointed. Therefore, as soon as the news of the flying sword warrior, Zhu Tui, coming to the combat training class spread, a large number of students gathered. Especially those from the supernatural branch. They all gathered around. Even those from the radiation influence branch and the school of general senses also joined in the fun. Zhu Tui, fight with me. Let me experience the elegance of the flying sword warrior. Zhu Tui, let's have an actual battle exchange. Let me see if I can defend against your silver pills. Zhu Tui, you're finally here. Please give us some pointers. Flying sword warrior, where's your sword? In an instant, they were in an uproar. At this moment, a few teaching assistants from the mystery branch were on duty. They did not mind it. To be honest, they also wanted to see Zhu Tui's flying sword. As for Professor Wen Xiao, he was in the office at the back. It was impossible for a professor like Wen Xiao to be on site the entire time for such a combat training class. Otherwise, he would be annoyed to death. Most of the time, students would look for the teaching assistant first if they had a problem. If the teaching assistant could not solve it, they would be allowed to consult Wen Xiao. Of course, students who received special treatment were different. Zhu Tui laughed when he saw the hundreds of students surrounding him and shouting that they wanted to challenge him. There are so many of you. Even if you drain all of my mind power, I won't be able to fight you all. I can't do it even if I die of exhaustion. The first-year students were stunned when they heard that. That made sense. There were hundreds of people. Everyone wanted to have an actual combat exchange with Zhu Tui. Not to mention everyone, even 1/3 or 1/10 was unrealistic. Those of us who want to fight you, raise your hands. You can choose. Whoever you pick will be considered your opponent. Those who aren't picked, just watch, a male student shouted. Zhu Tui wanted to applaud the male student when he heard that. He was simply the best support. He gave Zhu Tui the method that he wanted the most. After all, he was here today to cause trouble. All right, that's a good suggestion. It's not fair. If Zhu Tui takes the opportunity to pick up girls, us boys will be at a disadvantage. Toss the ball. Whoever manages to snatch the ball will have to fight Zhu Tui. A student immediately started singing a counter jump. Zhu Tui almost tripped when he heard that. Toss the ball. FCAC. Why didn't you say you were going to throw a silk ball? He could just get married. Then he'll follow this student's suggestion. Those who want to fight me, raise your hand. He'll choose a few students, Zhu Tui said. Zhu Tui's suggestion immediately received the approval of the hundreds of students present. This was especially so for the students from the supernatural branch. They raised their hands and stood on their tiptoes, afraid that Zhu Tui could not see them. Zhu Tui looked around and found his first target for the day. Just as he was about to speak, his communication device suddenly rang. The caller was Zuo Qingqing. Zhu Tui was stunned. He quickly picked up the call. Zuo Qingqing was his creditor. He had not compensated her for the pearl necklace that he had destroyed. Fight me first. I want to try. Zuo Qingqing's voice sounded on the phone. I'll raise my hand at the outermost area on your left. You should be able to see me. Zuo Qingqing told him where she was. Zhu Tui followed Zuo Qingqing's instructions and looked over. He saw her and Gong Ling holding hands as they stood together. They had one hand raised high. The sleeve that was slightly down revealed a blue bracelet that shimmered in the sunlight. Zhu Tui felt a little helpless after he hung up the phone. He had to satisfy this creditor's request. This time, one of the male students was right. If he chose Zuo Qingqing, he wouldn't be able to escape the reputation of hitting on girls. However, he still had to fulfill his creditor's request. Zuo Qingqing had never hesitated when she helped Zhu Tui back then. In the next moment, Zhu Tui shouted to the left and behind him, that female student, yes, that female student wearing the blue bracelet. You'll be in the first round. The crowd looked over and immediately, a male student started to jeer. He was right. Is he using this opportunity to hit on girls? Student Flying Sword Warrior, if you choose a girl in the next round, well, put on a collective disguise first. When the time comes, you can choose from hundreds of beauties. A student shouted unhappily. Zutui broke out in a cold sweat when he heard this. Were they going to pretend to be a fake woman and let him choose? Zutui subconsciously glanced at Gongling in the distance. Still as big as ever, he could not help but take another look. Gongling probably had no intention of fighting him, right? Zuo Qingqing was also very smart. She immediately pretended that she did not know Zutui and went on stage. A minute later, Zutui and Zuo Qingqing stood in a combat zone. They each stood on a standard battle platform. Please, please. Just as the two of them were about to fight, the teaching assistant on duty arrived. Almost at the very first moment, a thin bolt of lightning suddenly exploded in front of Zuo Qingqing. The moment it appeared, it leaped toward Zutui. Not bad. Zutui praised her first. Zuo Qingqing's attack was extremely fast, be it the speed of her attack or the speed of the lightning. The jumping speed of the lightning was already faster than the speed of firearms. However, it was not enough in front of Zutui. He did not even move. He turned his body slightly and avoided the bolt of lightning. Zuo Qingqing was a rare lightning-type superb individual. The surrounding students were all very surprised to see Zutui dodge so easily. Zuo Qingqing also bit her lip. She would not know until they fought. As soon as they exchanged blows, she realized that the difference was too great. However, Zuo Qingqing was not discouraged. She continued to shout. With a wave of her hand, bolts of lightning struck toward Zutui. Zutui occasionally used his mental shield to block the attacks and occasionally dodged them. He reacted quickly, but he did not want to show off here. After all, he could not show off much here. Another attack. Zutui tilted his head and dodged a bolt of lightning. However, just as he dodged the bolt of lightning, Zutui's mental perception immediately detected something unusual. In an instant, two mental shields condensed behind his head and on his legs. It was also at this moment that the bolt of lightning that Zutui had dodged suddenly turned around and shot toward the back of his head. The moment it turned, the bolt of lightning split into two and shot toward the back of Zutui's head and legs. Zuo Qingqing's eyes flashed with pride. Not everyone could block this split-body jumping electric arc. In the next moment, Zuo Qingqing's cherry lips opened slightly with a shocked expression. Her split-body jumping electric arc was blocked by an invisible barrier when it landed on Zutui. The sound of air being torn could be heard. The moment Zuo Qingqing reacted, she saw an alloy silver pill circling around her. This sudden turn of events shocked the surrounding students. They cried out in surprise and exclaimed in satisfaction. I-list, Zuo Qingqing got off the stage cleanly. The enthusiasm of the surrounding students was ignited again. Zutui, choose him. Flying Sword Warrior, choose me. Choose me, quickly choose me.